The new seasonal causes changed everything. While at launch and during the first 2 seasons the focus of our save file runs was to get a perfect deck with good gear and hopefully some decent arena upgrades, Season 3 shifted the focus completely on the equipment. These 2 Persona cards are a staple in virtually any deck. Persona of Obsidian looks like a card that was designed exclusively for Heide Marie and Diana, but the amount of extra damage it provides, combined with the 230% engravings, is phenomenal for nearly every combatant who relies on using multiple attack cards each turn. Even for combatants who lack any discard synergy, it's worth it to discard a couple of useless cards to get that amount of damage increase. Selena and Hugo, who rely on extra attacks, don't care about it. Big bonk combatants like Haru, 9 and the Heide Marie Nuke build won't benefit from it as much. Persona of Luster is the support card this season. The card itself provides up to 150% damage increase to a single attack, but where it really shines is when it's equipped with the Lux engraving that provides an extra 20% damage, shield and healing to the whole team for each Lux engraving. This card becomes a crazy good team-wide buffer and is a must for every controller. If you pick multiple Persona cards at the start of a run, you will be offered engravings that can fit a multitude of combatant types. It's better to focus on one Persona card at a time to maximize your chances of being offered the correct Lux or Umbra engravings. For equipment, there are some really sweet things to pick up. Torture Box looks like a piece of equipment of dubious utility, but one of the best engravings in the game provide 50% attack card damage to the whole team on enemy action count increase. There are other ways to do so, but having a single combatant in the team equipped with this chest piece is going to automatically activate this buff every turn without relying on draw or gear RNG. Other Lux engravings are situational and depend on which combatant you are building. You can use semi-random ones just to max out the amount of Lux engravings you have for Blessing of Light. Damage dealers will want to look for Umbra engravings that increase damage amount by 30% with 7+ cards in the graveyard, but even 15% crit damage is nothing to scoff at. This reliance of builds on the gear and engraving system, combined with the new currency allowing us to edit cards in post-production, means that our focus during runs should be mostly on the Persona cards and gear. This Cassius save file requires some work on the cards. I will need to swap the Divine Epiphany and look for the action point cost reduction. The gearing is missing one Lux engraving, but it's overall excellent, with 50% team buff and the toolbox. During our runs there are a few ways to improve the odds of getting good gear and engravings. The Delam shop is going to be the place where we spend most of our credits rolling for gear. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to get a good piece of equipment with an ideal engraving. What happens often is that we get a good piece of gear with a useless or no engraving at all, or we get a piece of trash with the engraving we're looking for. For the gearing process you need to keep this in mind. A new engraving replaces our old or no engraving. New gear replaces old gear. If early on in the run you buy from the shop your best in slot piece of equipment, but later on you find an engraving you're looking for attached to a piece of trash, you have to overwrite your original good piece of gear and look for it again. On the other hand, if you stick around with some bozo gear that has ideal engravings, later on you can purchase or obtain good gear and replace your bozo stuff with it. Remember that if you already have an engraving on your gear, you are going to keep it as long as you don't replace it with a new piece that also has an engraving. This heavy reliance on the shop means that during a run, our credits management becomes extremely important. Starting a run, the card removal options are always great, but even starting with an extra 100 credits can be really useful. There is nothing worse than hitting a shop early on and not having enough to purchase a gutted piece of kit. Remember, you can remove cards in post-production. The same strategies for deck building of the previous seasons are still valid, but if you end a run with a perfect gear and engravings, you could have a file with a wrong base epiphany, 2 basic cards still need to be removed, and a missing copy of a divine card, and still be able to turn it into a perfect save file with some crafting via the sorting materials. There is no way to edit the gear and the Persona cards on our save files, so always treat that as your priority. I'll now show you a quick delegate mode run. Doing it manually is obviously better and more reliable, but delegate runs usually take less than 15 minutes, making them an extremely valuable way to save our time. With my combatants, I've never had issues clearing difficulty 8, tier 15 trauma mode on delegate mode, and at the moment I'm focusing mostly on Serenial. I have a decent save file for Narya, and for Cassius I have the save file that I showed you earlier. where I need to work on the divine epiphanies. So hopefully I will be able to get something decent, or at the very least usable for Serenial, while I try to get an optimized file during the regular runs in my spare time. First piece of equipment, I'm going to give it to Serenial, even though it's a piece of garbage, because if we meet the event that allows us to apply an engraving to a piece of equipment, we want our target combatant to have something on her. This is the correct persona for a character like Serenial, so let's pick it up. Don't want to pick up another persona card to avoid adding in the pool of potential engravings those for controllers. This is the engraving we want for Serenial. I have a decent amount of cash, so I will pick the option to remove a card. This is not actually my favorite epiphany for Plasma Missile, because I prefer the one that increases the damage of homing lasers by 60% for the turn, but by making it into a unique right now, it's removed from the pools of cards that can be copied. I like the Epiphany on the left, but I also like the Divine Epiphany on the right. So I will be picking this Epiphany, the one that reduces cost by 1. Then in post-production I will be changing it into that one. If the save file ends up being interesting, of course. Oh, okay, we got it. So, she has the correct persona card. Still have to work on the engravements, unfortunately. Oh, this is a good one. Unfortunately, we didn't get any good engraving for our Serenial. It's a real bummer. And this concludes our run. So this was one of those cases where the RNG gods didn't smile upon me very much. I got the correct persona card. Unfortunately, the engravings on the equipment were awful, and the card selection for her was absolutely abysmal, meaning that it's a save file that is completely unusable. And it happens often in delegation mode, but since we get a couple of free runs each day and they take less than 15 minutes to do, it's always worth to try it, and then use the remaining time that you have to play either grinding more manually or doing sortie mode to empty the shop. Good luck for your save files, guys. So far I have some combatants with builds that are very decent and I'm sure I will be able to use for the whole duration of Season 3, while others like Serenial, Cassius and a few others are still very deep work in progress. But it's okay, the season just started and this is a process that I always enjoy doing. Bye guys, take care.